What?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning,
morning.
Rabbi.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Learning Mishnah is Pesachim, Parakir, chapter 10, Mishnah Ches, Mishnah 8. Okay, so we're at the end of the meal. And now the Mishnah tells us, Vein maftirin achar Pesach afikomen. We may not end the meal after eating the carbon Pesach with dessert. The word afikomen, okay, we're not using it in the context of how we use the word afikomen. We talk about the matzah that we eat the matzah that we eat after the meal is afikomen. Right now, that is not the context of how we're using it right here. And actually, we're using it in its original context, which afikomen means dessert. As I bring down here from the Bar Tanura, the word afikomen is a combination of the Aramaic words afiku mini, which means bring out the types of fruits and condiments with which to end the meal. Apparently, they had these fruits, these condiments. That was their dessert. So, ein maftir achar Pesach afikomen means maftir means to end. We cannot end the meal after eating the carbon Pesach with dessert. As we know, the carbon Pesach should be eaten after the main meal so that it brings one to full satisfaction. And after that point, no more eating anything else. The purpose of that is so that the taste of the matzah the taste of the carbon Pesach should remain in our mouth. We want to have that taste remaining with us. Nowadays, that we don't have a carbon Pesach and we eat matzah in place of the carbon Pesach at the end of the meal, there again, we do not have anything. We don't have any kind of dessert. We don't eat anything after that. So the original word afikomen really means dessert. And the fact that now, after that matzah, we don't eat dessert, somehow or another now, that eating of the matzah became known as, it was referred to as afikomen. Okay. So that's the halacha, again, of not eating anything after the carbon Pesach or after the matzah that we eat in place of the carbon Pesach. And again, it's for the taste of the carbon Pesach or the matzah that commemorates the carbon Pesach should remain in our mouths. That's the first halacha. Next halacha. So the next halacha, next part of the Mishnah, we need a quick introduction. And that is, one who starts eating the offering, the carbon Pesach, in one place is, according to Torah, forbidden to finish it in a second place. Once you eat your carbon Pesach in one place, you don't change places while you're eating the carbon Pesach. The Chachamim added, the sages added, that even someone who fell asleep while eating the offering, eating the carbon Pesach, may not continue when he wakes up, because that resembles eating in a second place. And they explain this in the following way. When someone falls asleep in the middle of eating, his intent to finish the meal is interrupted. Thus, when he awakes up and resumes eating, it is as if he is starting a new meal. In this sense, he is like one who leaves his place and continues eating in another place, who also stops his meal and starts again. So it's a precautionary measure. They instituted this stringency in order to make sure that we don't think that we could go ahead and eat it in separate places, because both of them have that similarity of being of starting a new eating. Okay, so that's the halacha. You fall asleep in the middle of eating the carbon Pesach. You know, why would you fall asleep? But you fell asleep, right? And after 2 cups of wine and matzah and a meal, you know, it can be hard to stay up. So if a person falls asleep, they can't start again. They can't continue. Now, but now the Mishnah is going to qualify that. Yashnu miksasan. You had a group of people eating the carbon Pesach, and some of them fell asleep. Some of them conked out, and some of them stayed up. Yoichlu kulan. Yoichlu, I'm sorry. Everybody can still eat. Even though some people fell asleep, being that they're eating with other people, and the other people didn't fall asleep, that means you're part of a group where they were still part of the group that the meal was continuing for because they didn't fall asleep. Although you fell asleep, since you're part of that group, you're not when you wake up, it's not considered a new eating. You're part of that group eating that really didn't end because there were members of the group that were still awake. So if only some of the people fell asleep, everybody, including the people who fell asleep, can eat. Kulan, if they all conked out, everybody fell asleep. Lo yoichlu, then you can't continue eating. That's the first opinion. Rabbi Yossi says, now Rabbi Yossi, what Rabbi Yossi is coming to say now is he's focusing on the part where the Tanna Kama said, if some of them fell asleep, that as long as there are some people up, everybody can eat. So Rabbi Yossi says, not so simple. Nis namnu, if those who fell asleep dozed off, then they can continue eating. And we'll define what dozed off means in a second. Near the move, if they fell into a deep sleep, even though other people were wide awake, lo yechlu, they can't eat anymore. So according to Rabbi Yossi, even when we say that if part of the group is up, everyone can eat, including those who fell asleep, that's only if they dozed off. But once they actually really fell into a deep sleep, and then they wake up, so for them that's considered now, by falling asleep, really falling asleep, that now means that from their part, they ended, that the meal ended, whether they meant to or not, but the meal ended, and therefore starting again, eating again is like starting a new meal, and that falls under this rabbinic restriction that if you fell asleep in the middle, you shouldn't eat again. Okay, so now let's just elaborate on this a little bit. So what does dozing mean? So they bring down here in the notes, dozing in this context means that the sleeper is somewhat awake, but not enough to think clearly. He cannot recall information unless he is prompted. For example, if he is asked where he put a certain object, he will not be able to answer. He's too groggy. But if he is asked whether he put it in a particular place, he can answer yes or no. He has to remember where he put, he has to completely remember where he put it. That's too much. But if you tell him, is it here? And that he's able to answer to. So it's just kind of funny stage of where, again, we say dozing is like, you kind of just drop your head a little bit and keep popping up. And they explain dozing as actually when he comes out of the sleep, or actually I shouldn't say that. It actually means, no, he is dozing. It's while he's sleeping, right? He's kind of not fully there. And the question is, how not fully there is he? He's not fully there to be able to recall, if you ask him where it is, he won't be able to recall where it is. But if you specifically ask him a yes or no question, like where is it here, that he would be able to answer. That's called dozing. Now, so according to Rabbi Yossi, group members who fell asleep may continue to eat only if they merely dozed off and some members of the group remained awake the entire time. But if they fell into a deep sleep, their participation in the meal came to a complete end, and therefore they're starting again. According to the Tanna Kama, however, it makes no difference whether they dozed or slept deeply. Either way, since some members of the group remained awake, the group meal was not interrupted, and those who fell asleep may rejoin it. So according to the first opinion, that didn't make this distinction. It doesn't make a difference how deep a sleep you fell into. As long as there are some people that are still awake, then say this group meal, this group eating it's considered the group meal continued, and therefore they're just rejoining the meal that was going on until now. At the same time, what happens if everybody dozes off? Everybody dozes off.
Sounds like that's invalidates.
That would invalidate. That would not allow. That's considered everybody fell asleep, and you can continue.
Does it have to be the rov, or just doesn't specify?
It doesn't specify.
Okay.
It says some of them and all of them.
Okay.
I didn't see anybody speaking about what's by majority, but that's very interesting. Again, if everybody dozes off, then everybody was kind of out of it. But if once you have some that are completely awake, they're keeping the meal going, and no matter what the other people do, they'll be able to rejoin and continue eating. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Now, how does